recording. I always forget to do that. Okay, so first we'll talk a little bit about the Ultra experience. Right now, we are currently utilizing what we call dual deployment. We turned on the Ultra base navigation, which caused a little bit of confusion because the Ultra base navigation is different from the Ultra course view. And so that did, like I said, cause a little confusion. People thought that they had already converted to Ultra. No, when you open your course, if you see this view, if it looks like this view here in the middle, that is the original course view. And then over here, you can see on the right is the Ultra course view. It's a little more updated and current. This original course view has been around since 2010, 2011, so it was in need of an update. I think, you know, the move to Ultra is good for a number of reasons. One is that it is, it's a completely redesigned user interface, which it was redesigned with mobile users in mind, right? Like 10 years ago, the use of phones and tablets and stuff was not nearly as commonplace as it is now. So the new Ultra view works the same no matter what kind of device you're on, which is great. It simplifies things, and I think probably the most important thing is it increases accessibility for everyone, for all of our learners, which is, I believe, very important. And as I mentioned, it stays more consistent across all the other systems, so that you don't have these little quirks that we sometimes ran into with original if you were trying to use the app and things like that. In Ultra, everything is pretty much the same. When you are on a phone, it does stack things up on top of one another instead of putting them next to each other as you would have in a larger display. But other than that, it really works the same. So as we're transitioning to Ultra, we have on our Ultra web page, we have a lot of tools for you. And probably the two most important on the page, if you click on that Ultra tab, are this What's New in Ultra and the Feature Guide. The What's New in Ultra is relatively new, and that's something you really want to pay attention to because Ultra, or I should say, they have really accelerated the development of Ultra. They've added a lot of people to the various development teams, and they are rolling out changes at a much higher rate than they did in the past. So, I mean, we're seeing a lot of changes every month with their updates. So this is a great place to go and see what's sort of just been added and also sometimes what's sort of expected to come in the relatively short term. So, you know, that's a great place to go if like you have a certain feature that you really need to have in your course and it's not in Ultra yet, or you can come here and check to see if it has been added. And like I said, this is also where you can go to check and see just new features that have been added to Ultra that you may want to take advantage of in your course. And then the feature guide is a side-by-side comparison of the original and Ultra features and whether or not the feature is planned for deployment in the Ultra course view. So like I said, as they're going along, they're really starting to add a lot more functionality to Ultra. So it is, I mean, you may have heard, you know, when we first got onto Ultra, it was not the most pleasant experience for some instructors, but they have added a lot of features now. One of the biggest recent additions is the points-based grading system, which we will get into, or touch on, I should say. But this is a great place to go to see what is happening in Ultra. This is a look at our feature guide. So it tells you what's coming up, what we have, and what is no longer available. All right, I guess I talked about all this. So this is what our What's New in Ultra looks like. Now I'd like to talk about a few of the changes that have come in with the move to Ultra, starting with our base navigation page. A few things on here are unique to the Ultra Base Nav. One is this activity stream, which consolidates activity from all of your courses. One thing that's important to remember about the activity stream is that it is completely customizable by the end user. So that means that while students can do have the information that gets sent to their activity stream, they can turn it off just like you can, right? You can decide which items you want to display in your activity stream. So just be aware of that. Um, you've got the calendar, which also this is a nice uh, feature in Ultra because it displays um, due dates from across all of your courses. Like the activity stream, it's customizable, so you can decide what you want to see displayed on your calendar. So it is possible for a student, for example, to turn off your particular course. So just be aware of that. You don't really have any way to control that, but your students are adults. They're responsible for their due dates. This is just one tool we have available in Ultra to help them do that. Whether they use it or not, it's kind of up to them. As many of you probably know, as an instructor, right, the activity stream gets a lot of updates. So sometimes people do turn that off because it just, you end up with a lot of stuff going on. So limiting what's displayed in the activity stream is something people do. Another thing I really like is this grades tab. And I like it for a couple reasons. One of the reasons is that it pulls all of your grading information together in one location. So you can go to your grades tab and see a display of all of your courses, and if there's new work to be graded, it will show up there. And you can then jump into the grading workflow just by clicking that assignment. And then finally, there's this feature here, Assist, which it says new. Honestly, it's not that new anymore. It's been out for over a year. But this is a tab that connects you and your students with all of the other campus services available that are outside of Blackboard. So, this is where a student could go to connect with tutoring services or counseling or campus activities, things like that. So it has all of sort of this outside stuff, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Okay. Another big change in Ultra is the announcement pop-up. This is one of my favorite features in Ultra simply because it is the announcement pop-up is exactly what it says. It is a pop-up with your announcement in it. And this is really nice because especially if you are an instructor who uses announcements frequently or uses them, to announce important things, what happens is anytime a student enters your course, if they are entering since a new announcement has posted, it will pop up in this pop-up window first before they can actually enter your course. Now, that doesn't mean that they will actually read the announcement, right? Because we can all envision that scenario where a student is attempting to turn in that assignment, a minute before deadline, so they're not going to stop to read this. They'll just go through it, but they can then go back to the announcement archive and review it. And so, again, this is one of those things that, it doesn't guarantee that the student is going to read your announcement, but it was put in front of them, and they know that they're responsible for whatever was contained in that announcement, so they will go back and look at it, hopefully. Another great change, I think, is this messages tab, because this is a way for you to get similar to the grades tab. It's a place that displays messages from all of your courses in one location. And you can, again, just click in from one of these tiles to get into your course messaging. You can also enter the messaging workflow from inside your course. But here is where you'll see all of your courses displayed. And then if you have messages, I think I've got Yeah, and so this is inside the course. So if you click in one of your courses, it tells you if you've got unread messages over here, and you can see inside the course you've got this messages tab. That's what this is right here. Um, and to add a message, all you have to do is click the plus icon. If you don't see the plus icon, that is because your course is not yet open to students. Blackboard only allows you to send messages to students if the course is open. So just be aware of that. That's kind of what I talked about. I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. Um, okay, another big change in Ultra is this gradebook list view. Um, Now, you have a couple of different views in the gradebook now. You have this list view, and you also have the more traditional grid view, which we'll talk about in a second. But what this does is it displays all of your gradable items in a course in a list form instead of in this grid form. You can jump into each of your assignments by clicking on them. It will tell you the status, right? So if you've got stuff to grade, it'll show that to you. If you've got stuff to post, it'll show that to you. That's another big change in Ultra is that you have to post grades. You can set grades up to post automatically if you would like, but unlike original where grades sort of posted automatically once you when you graded them, this will hold on to those grades so you can sort of grade things as they come in, right, before they're fully due, before the due date passes, and then you can just when you're done with all your grading, you can post all the grades. Or, if you'd prefer, you can post them when they come in and you finish grading them. It really does give you a lot more flexibility. You can also edit your assignments by clicking the kebab here. This is an icon you'll see a lot in Ultra. Um, and usually when you click it, or shouldn't say usually, always, when you click it, it will give you a menu of items, and which items are on that menu will vary depending on where you're at um, in the course, but just know that icon will always pull up a menu for you to do something to whatever it is you are clicking on. Also in that list item, you also have a student display. This is really nice because it's a list of your students. It displays their overall grade. And this is where you'll go to find their date of last access. So if you do have a student, say, that has some sort of life event and is unable to complete your course for a semester and you have to register them as incomplete, this is where you would come to find that last access date. Um, and, uh, and this is another big change in Ultra is that accommodations are no longer added per assignment for the student. Now, if a student has an accommodation, you add that to the student, and then any assignment will have that accommodation automatically added. So if, for example, a student has a 50% additional time accommodation, you can add that here in the gradebook to the student. You can also add them on the roster, but you add it here, and once it's applied to that student, then any assessment they take with a time limit, they will automatically get that 50% additional time. All right, as I said, we do have the two different views. We have that list view, and this is the more traditional grid view. Right now, they have the overall grade is right at the beginning, and then your assignments will be along the top. Again, just like the original grade book, you can click in here to grade submissions from students. You can click in them to override them too. And you'll notice that it tells you when you've got new submissions. It tells you if you posted a grade. Um, so this is the more traditional grid view. A lot of people like this a little better. Um, Sometimes it's a little easier to visualize, I think, your class using this view. Um, some other big changes in the grade book are sort of how the overall grade is actually calculated, and we have it's just kind of a different way of doing it. And we have a whole workshop that we dedicate to um, grading and setting up your grade book. So I would definitely think about either attending that or watching one of the recordings to get an idea of how to set up your overall grade in Ultra. But they really have made it pretty simple. And it's, I think most people clicking around in it a little bit can probably get it figured out as long as you're not trying to do anything too crazy. But we're always here at the Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning if you need help too, so don't hesitate to give us a call. Um, but just this summer, they added points to the calculation, so now you don't have to only calculate a grade as using percentages. You can use points to calculate your grades for students, or I should say your overall grade. You can mix categories in the overall grade, which is really nice. So, for example, if you have an item, like say in a category and you want to bust it out of there and sort of have it as a separate item that you grade with a different percentage or points, you can do that. One of my favorite features in the Ultra Gradebook is this automatic zeros feature. This is great, especially if you have a lot of students, because this will automatically assign zeros for work that's not turned in on time. So if you establish a due date and the due date passes, a student has not turned in their work, they will automatically get a zero. This is really useful for students because um, Blackboard calculates grades based on work turned in. And so if a student doesn't have a score for an item, it won't calculate that. So if a student has missed 2 or 3 assignments and they don't have zeros entered in the grade book, Blackboard won't figure that in calculating their grade. So a student may look at their grade and think, hey, I'm still getting an A, when in reality, they're no longer getting an A because they have missed these 3 assignments. So the automatic zeros can kind of take care of that. And you can turn that on and off easily. Extra credit does need to be added manually currently, but now that this is something we've asked them to remedy, and I know they are working on it. With the points-based grade calculation, you can now, like you could before in original, you can create an item, or I should say you can create a column in your grade center, in your grade book that you can wait, or you can give 0 points, and then any points you add to that will be extra credit. But just keep in mind that you currently have to add extra credit manually. Rubrics are now allowing both points and percentage scoring options. I believe the rubric grid is up to 15 by 15 now too, so it's pretty big and versatile. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're working on allowing you to copy rubrics from other courses without having to copy in an assignment. So that should be coming soon. And you can drop scores. You do that in the overall grade calculation, kind of like you did it before, but you do it from the grade calculation from the category itself. You can just add a rule and you can drop up to n-1 scores. All right, so I want to stop for a second because I feel like I've been going fast and furious, and just so I can catch a breath and ask if anybody has any questions. I know I've gone through a lot of that stuff pretty quickly. All right, seeing no hands and hearing no talk, I will continue to move along. Another, or one of the biggest changes from original to ultra is this limitation on the nesting levels. In original, you can put folders inside of folders pretty much on to infinity. Ultra does not allow that. This is a navigation issue, right? Navigating from deep inside, from a deeply nested folder structure is very difficult. to do, especially for someone who, say, has a learning challenge, or just if they're trying to use a mobile device. So currently, you are limited to 2 levels of nesting. Now, this can be a learning module with a folder inside of it, or a folder with a folder inside of it. Learning modules and folders are virtually the same. They are just containers to hold other stuff. Um, but just keep in mind that learning module is a little more limited, because once you can't put a learning module inside of a learning module. Okay, that's about the only difference. There are a couple of other little differences too, but we're not going to go into that now. But just be aware of that, because if you have been teaching an original and you have a heavily nested course, before you move to Ultra, you're probably, I would recommend that you consider um, either pulling those folders out, so you have a more so you have a course that's less deeply nested, which will make it easier for you to copy stuff over. Because if you try to move a heavily nested course structure into Ultra, what it does is it flattens everything out, and that can make it really hard to find your materials when it's moved over. So just, it sort of saves you a headache, I guess, if you sort of move to a more Ultra-friendly file structure before converting. You can also, and we'll talk about this in a minute, is you can, one of the great features in Ultra is that you can copy pretty much down to a single assignment. So you can actually copy smaller units from your current courses. So when you're building an Ultra, you can bring in smaller pieces as you do it. It which I think makes it a little easier, because you don't have a situation where you have this big giant mess. You have a bunch of smaller messes that you can more easily deal with. Okay, one of the options, right, when you're moving is to build from scratch. We're not here to talk that much about this. This is, similar to what you do in when you start with nothing. But just know, if you want to add items to your course, um, you'll click this plus icon. That will pull up this menu of selections. You'll notice one of these is copy, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But right now, I'm going to talk about this create item panel, and you get to that by clicking create here. And this shows you then a number of things that you can create in your course, sort of create from scratch, right? This is where you can add a learning module or a folder. You can add a Ultra document. Now, this is a little more robust than just a Word document. It does allow you, through the text editor, to add videos and other images, links to websites and things like that. So it's really kind of a stripped down web page that you can create. You can also add links to outside content. A couple of these other, like the SCORM package, you may or may not use, I don't know. We won't talk about that at the moment, because those would just be imported. Normally, you probably wouldn't import them from a previous course. But if you want to create tests and assignments, those are down here in the assessment section. You click, and creating tests and assignments is pretty much the same. There are some very subtle differences. And then also, if you want to create discussion boards or journals for your students, that's all here on the create item panel. It slides out when you click that create menu item. But most of you, right, are probably thinking about migrating your original course, right? So you're not starting from scratch, okay? You're going to be moving in an existing course, okay? A couple of warnings before that happens, okay? Remember that course migration is not going to go in a straight line. So, don't worry about that if it doesn't proceed exactly as you think how it should. Be ready for something unusual to happen, right? It, doesn't mean it's gonna, but just be prepared for something that you don't expect to happen, okay? Because when you're pulling in content from an original course, it sometimes throws these exceptions, okay? And it throws them, it designates them as low, medium, and high priority. Okay. But the problem is that when it tells you how many exceptions you have, it does not really differentiate. Okay. So you might see that you have 100 exceptions, but 99 of them might be low priority exceptions, which honestly are very, very minor. They're generally just minor formatting changes or things, probably not even stuff you would notice. Um, the medium priority changes you may want to take a closer look at, but again, those are changes that don't really affect the course that much, but they might be minor changes to a feature or something like that. It's the high priority exceptions that you want to make sure you investigate, because those are like, that's when things get deleted, or say question types are unsupported or something like that. So those are the ones you're really going to want to check out. So before you start, right, you want to take a good look at Ultra, okay? So go to those pages I showed you, um, and sort of get a plan in place, okay? Because I honestly think that the more planning you do ahead of time, the better off you're going to be when it comes time to migrating your course. Because this is, I'm just going to be honest about it, right? It's Don't get the idea that you can simply um, pull your stuff over and everything's going to be fine, because it's the two interfaces, the two user experiences are so different that it will require a little bit or at least a little bit of uh, sort of, what do I want to say, jiggering on your part to sort of get things to make sure things are the way you want them. This is, just think of this as really, it's an opportunity, right, to sort of re-examine your course design. If you need to update anything, this is a great time to do it, right, because you have to convert your course anyway. Okay, so if you have questions, make sure you schedule an appointment to talk with us about your conversion, right? We will sit down and talk with you about your specific needs, your specific course, and how best to attack the migration process. And we're here to support you along the way too. We cannot, we would love to be able to convert the courses for everybody, but we simply don't have enough people to do that. But we are here to support you along the way. And, you know, just don't hesitate to contact us if you need help. Okay, don't struggle alone. Contact us. One thing I will mention too, I don't think it's in my slides. Oh, I guess it is. It's the bottom there. We're offering another Ultra Transition Academy this semester. We did it over the summer. It's a short course. It's 3 weeks. Expect to spend maybe 2-3 hours a week on the course activities itself, and maybe another hour or so in turn, like you have to meet with the ambassador one time a week to sort of discuss your course. But this is a great way to sort of get you started on the Ultra transition process. And I believe this semester too, we're still offering a stipend to instructors. So look into that and register. I don't know if we're going to be able to offer that stipend after this semester. But as I said, if you need it, schedule an appointment to talk with us. And when you're reviewing your tools in Ultra, look for your deal breakers, right? So look for something that, like, if you have an activity or um, an assignment or something that absolutely has to have a certain tool and it's not in Ultra, then you may want to delay your transition a little bit, okay? Or you may want to investigate other tools that you could use maybe to create that same activity in Ultra. So again, that's what CITL staff is here to help you with. So if you do find one of those deal breakers, talk to us, and we'll do our best to get you set up. All right, now when you're migrating, there are a few things to consider. Okay, and personally recommend this sort of limited copy and conversion, which while you're building your Ultra course. One of the things that is also very helpful is our templates. We have these templates available for you. So if you are new to Ultra, you can request one of these templates. It's generally laid out in a weekly sort of format. So you have a content folder for each week essentially and inside that content folder, it has all of the other sort of placeholders for all the stuff you need or you might be adding to your course. This does not mean you have to add all these things. This is just a template for you to use to sort of start out with a basic structure in your course. The templates are nice because it keeps things uniform for students, which makes navigation easier, things like that. So, but again, this is your course. So if you don't want to use a template, you certainly don't have to. There have been some great enhancements to the copy tool in Ultra, and this is why I sort of advocate for this sort of limited copy way to convert and build your course, because you can bring things over in an Ultra course and you can bring them from an original course. You can bring in these small chunks, right? You can bring in a specific assessment and things like that. And by copying in these smaller chunks, you can see if it came in right. It's just easier to focus on to make sure that it's copying over to correctly. You can also make sure that you've got it placed properly within your course, that it's in the right area. And I mean, we now, even now, excuse me, Ultra is now allowing this copy within a course too. So you can actually copy items inside your course if you need them in more than one location. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do, I think, is create a shell. Now, if you don't have a course shell already created, faculty can create as many as they want. You go to the base navigation page, you click on this Tools tab, you go to Blackboard Faculty Tools, My Shells, and you request a new shell. It just takes a minute to create, and then you'll have this shell. As I said, as instructors, you can create pretty much as many shells as you want. I wouldn't get too crazy with them. And I would also make sure that you have some sort of naming convention in mind. You can really name them whatever you want, but to keep them organized, I usually recommend, naming them something that's either fairly close to your course name, because it will say shell in front of it, or something that's easy to remember, like I did that Arts 007, just because that's an easy number to remember. But once you have that shell, you open it and you're going to convert it to Ultra. Now, if you're going to have to do the same thing with your courses before you teach in Ultra, because courses are currently deployed in the original course view. You convert them to teach in Ultra, but the way you convert is you click that pencil icon up at the top. If you do not see the pencil icon, that's because the course is available. So this padlock icon here is, if it appears to be open and it's gray, that means your course is available. You just click it to turn it red and lock it. You'll see this pencil icon appear. And when you click that, this pop-up to try the Ultra course view will appear. It should appear the first time you open a course after you've requested it. Like the very first time you open an original course, it's supposed to ask you if you want to try the Ultra, but it doesn't always work that way. So if you need to convert, just know that you need that pencil icon. Once you've converted your course, you do need to confirm that you're going to keep the Ultra conversion. But once you have confirmed it, and it's a shell, so I say confirm right away because you can just get rid of your shells if you don't like them and create new ones. So confirming you're not going to need to convert back to original, I guess is what I'm saying. But once you have your new shell, you can start building, right? You can build your course. So, and this is the what I was talking about earlier, where you click the plus icon, right? And you'll notice there are several of them here. That's because one of the features in Ultra is that you can build content or place content exactly where you want it. It's not like original where you had to, where anytime you added an item, it went to the bottom of the list and you had to rearrange it to get it to the spot you want. But you click the plus icon, create, and that create item panel slides out like we talked about earlier. Okay, so you can copy in, as I said, you can copy in a single item or an assessment, right? So in an Ultra course or shell, all you have to do is click the three dots right up in the top corner under student preview to get to the copy content. Also, I don't know if you remember, but on this create item panel, there's also a copy content selection or here. So either way will take you to the same copy content slide out. And what happens then is the copy item will slide out. You navigate to the course you want, and you can actually then drill down into the course. So like you see this sandbox course, I'm opening up, it has my information, classroom testing and stuff, and these arrows, if I click those, will actually take me down further in, right? But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select what I wanna copy over. I'm gonna copy it over. Another nice thing about doing a more limited copy is that it happens faster. So like if you try to copy an entire course, it generally takes longer than if you're just copying a few items. Give it a minute or two to finalize the process. But once you've copied over your materials, then make sure you hop in and examine that item closely to make sure it copied over as you expected. You will see if you brought it from an original course, you may see some conversion exceptions. You'll want to review any of those. And also check the gradebook just to make sure that the gradebook column is there as well. Okay, now this last option here is the bulk copy option, and I'm going to tell you about this, but I want to tell you with the warning that this is not something I recommend because depending on how your course is structured and how many items and what types of items you have in there, this may be good or not. If you don't use your original course for much more than just posting up some information, you'll probably be okay. But most of the time that I have tried to copy an entire course over using this copy process, it's pretty messy and I personally don't like it. But all you have to do is when you open that copy, the first thing you see is a list of all of your courses. Okay, all you have to do is check the box next to that course you want to copy, and you'll see a submit item at the bottom. You click that, and it will pull it all over. It will take a little longer. How long it will take will depend on the size of your course and the amount of material within it, but it will take some time. You will have to do some cleanup after that. And it's a good idea to take time to go in and inspect all your elements just to make sure, because during that bulk copy process, you want to make sure that everything came over. Whew. Okay, and then finally, no matter what method you use, I would always suggest going into the student preview, at least temporarily, to take an assessment or two and then grade it just to see how it works. All right. So you activate your student preview, right? Remember to make your item whatever item you want to preview as a student has to be visible to a student in your course. Otherwise, you won't be able to see it. Um, but this is a great way to go in and check to make sure that um, it is displaying the way you want it displayed. If not, you may need to make some changes, right? If you're in student preview and it's a graded item, you can complete that item and submit the assessment, right? You have a special student preview user in your course that will be in the gradebook, so you can then go back. Okay, you can then hop out of the student preview and you can jump into the grading workflow. What's nice is in Ultra, you can go straight from the student preview to the gradebook, and you can then you know assess the work that you turned in as a student, grade it, post it, jump back into the student preview, and you can see how your feedback looks. You can see, how it looks from the student end. So you can see that, this is how what a student will see when they enter to see their grades. So, I always use the student preview to sort of just double check to make sure that things are showing the way I want them to show. All right, we are running to the very end, so I want to leave some time for questions. But it may be after you've gone through all this and you've talked to us at the CITL, you may decide Ultra is not quite ready. You're not quite ready for Ultra at the moment. That's fine. Just be aware that after December 2023, everything has to be in Ultra. Okay. Be aware that we're going to keep offering the Transition Academy, but we won't offer that stipend to take it after this semester. So this is the time to get started. Okay. Even if you're not going to convert right away, start planning that migration route. Okay. Create more shells, convert them to Ultra, and explore. Right. You can do whatever you want with them. They're there for development purposes. Okay, you may want to, as I mentioned earlier, this may be a time for you to sort of reassess your course and decide, maybe some items that don't aren't going to translate well to original. Maybe you can um, sort of translate that activity into a more suitable format for Ultra. Okay, find workarounds for your deal breakers, and of course, talk to us at CITL. All right, so I know there have to be questions. Please don't hesitate to ask. I'm more than happy to demonstrate any of the stuff that I ran through so quickly um, if you would like. But we have about 9 minutes, it looks like. So please feel free to raise your hand or jump on the mic. Um, if you don't have any questions and you think you're good, I'm happy to give you that time back if you would like. But I will continue to hang out and